There's no question that money buys policy.
We just had our first election where over $3 million of contributions were made in a mayoral election, which shattered the prior record by orders of magnitude. It's here. It took a while for it to come down from national politics to state politics to local politics, but there's no question that it's here.
My concern is when you see enormous amounts of super PAC money infiltrate local elections, even national elections, and tilt the playing field.
In 2010, the Supreme Court passed Citizens United, allowing elections to be flooded with dark money.
If an individual were to give $3,000 to an individual candidate for an election, that would be considered illegal because of the inherent risk of corruption. But that same individual can set up a super PAC now that will do nothing but advocate the election of that same candidate and put $3 million into it, and the Supreme Court has rather bizarrely stated that there is no risk of corruption involved in that.
Our experience has been so much worse than anybody feared. You end up having to go ask for money from people that you know are not contributing, they're investing.
I've seen how it can influence the way people vote on issues back when I served in the legislature, and I've seen how it influences policy. We are creating a government and a democracy that isn't as much a product of the will of the people, but the will of the few who have the money to make it their will. And that's a dangerous road to go down. And the bottom line is you want your elections to be controlled by the people in the community who are going to be governed by those elected. And so when you have people that are trying to impact the election from all over the country, you know, there's a reason that they're doing that.
Voter rights, voter suppression, free choice, gun control. We're not making any headway because our politicians are bought by people who have an interest in protecting that. If we want to restore democracy, what are the steps that have to be taken? Step number one is allow the system to work so that the average American can run for office and not be beholden to a special interest group.
On August 24th, 2014, St. Pete City Council passed a resolution that states,
"Corporations are not people, money is not speech."
However, activists felt that wasn't enough because it is non-binding. They wanted to pass an ordinance that would truly keep money out of St. Pete city elections. City Council member Darden Rice introduced the Defend Our Democracy ordinance to the City Council June 22, 2016. The ordinance was crafted by Free Speech for People. The ordinance, which passed on October 5, 2017, abolishes super PACs and prohibits spending by foreign-influenced corporations. If this ordinance is challenged in court, it will go to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. If we win and the ordinance is challenged again, it will go to the Supreme Court.
When you're taking on big money, it takes a mass movement. It takes a social movement. We started to assemble a survey of people in St. Petersburg, asking them, would they support an ordinance, describing it and asking, would they support this? 85% of them supported it, even after being told of all the possible difficulties and the potential liability of $2 million. 75% still supported the ordinance.
I just tried to think of a way where they would be our captive audience, and that's when we moved over from the town halls to going to the open forums. We sincerely believe that our best hope would be to take action at the local level. Consider your legacy as a legislator. You have the opportunity to take a big step forward for the nation. Mull over the words of our presenters today, consider thinking beyond St. Pete, and do what is best for the country. Thank you.
Today I'm talking about the menacing relationship between big money and preemption, the type of law that's passed in the state that overrides the law of local communities, just like St. Pete. Big money special interest groups seeking to gain corporate favor fund many preemption laws. They frequently disempower citizens, local elected and appointed officials, entrench discrimination, and further economic inequity. In today's post-Citizens United world, money really does drown out the voice of ordinary citizens and local lawmakers.
Anytime a local government steps forward to change the status quo, you get enormous pushback. We did not slack off. We brought in the grassroots, we brought in the national experts.
I always brought new people with me, people that they had never met before, to go to open forum at City Council and to discuss how their particular issue was affected by money and politics. And it took months and months of months.
We spent a lot of time with them. We tried to understand what the barriers to their support were, what they needed in order to get to the other side, and we tried to provide that information.
I encourage you to talk to your constituents about this. Every poll that's been done has shown that people across the country overwhelmingly support action.
The very best nationally known constitutional lawyers in the country were backing us up and actually helped to draft and create this particular ordinance.
What would give you an expectation that the 11th Circuit in Atlanta would not just follow the existing law the way other circuits followed it?
Because this case would be presented very differently, council member. This case, as Professor Auschler has highlighted, would be coming before the courts after 15 months of deliberation by a legislative body, after multiple meetings with testimony from legal experts, from political science experts, from citizens in the community, with a record having been established as to why the city sought to do this. It would be a very different case. The factual record would be much stronger, and the legal arguments presented to the courts would be much stronger.
I was sitting in Charlie Gertis's office, and he said, you know, I'm going to really study this. He told me that day when I came back that he was with us.
In a very ephemeral sense, the right thing to do shouldn't be trumped by the possibility of a lawsuit.
The final arguments would be made on October 5th, when the City Council would vote to approve or reject the Defend Our Democracy ordinance.
Bruce and I spoke about it in the morning, and he, what do you think? I don't know. And you know, it was hours and hours and hours. It was a full day.
I made the decision a month ago to go against the United Methodist Church and my bishop to officiate a same-sex wedding. I did it because it's the right thing to do. My actions may have consequences for my very job, but I know, as Martin Luther King Jr. taught us, it is always the right time to do what is right. And I stand on those principles in my leadership and hope that you will too. Thank you.
I mean, imagine if the city of St. Petersburg could have the courage to change the way campaigns happened in America. It would be a historic deal.
Are you on the side of your actual constituents, all of whom are here today? You see us as a sea of red, asking you to vote in favor of democracy and to vote for what's actually healthiest and best for us as citizens and as a democratic society. Please vote yes. Thank you.
You know, I don't want to put the citizens at risk either, but to me, it's too expensive not to fix. The danger from what could happen and where we're headed is too expensive not to fix. And that's the reason I'm going to vote yes.
You have to answer to your constituents, and you have to vote yes or no, up or down on this issue, and tell us why. Council members, please cast your vote. Would the clerk please tally and announce the vote?
Madam Chair, the motion to approve agenda item D3 passes 6-2.
Got a new dance.
Do you cast the vote on what you know is the right thing to do, or do you cast the vote on the belief that this may not really change, right? And I had to come from a hopeful place that if anywhere this could work, we were going to figure out how to make it work here in the city of St. Petersburg.
The voters should be proud that St. Pete took a leadership role to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're tired of it.
You know, they had a vision, they had an idea of what they wanted to do for their city, and they made it happen, and they won. And now they're going to defend it in court if necessary, but we can do this all across the country. We can stand up to big money interests. We can stand up to defend our democracy. We just have to have the courage and the will and the people power to do it.
When we got involved in this campaign, I knew the first thing we had to do was assess who could be with us and how we could do outreach to reach those people. That we had to have a media component to what we were doing. That we had to assess our elected officials and how they stood, and figure out individual strategies for approaching each one of these and winning over each one of these. That we had to worry about the opposition and pay attention to any opposition and pay attention to what opposition might happen to be. And that we had to develop talking points and a framework so that we could message this thing very, very broadly and build a very, 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 very broad campaign.
It's not so hard once you do it a few times. It's kind of fun.